From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Amarachi Ubani.
Tonight, state governors gear up for a likely showdown with the federal government over the Paris Fund judgment debt, warns against deduction of $418 million from states. Giant stride for the military in the fight against terror as troops killed 10 Boko Haram, ISWAP commanders and other terrorists in the Lake Chad region. Abuja IDPs cry out for help, saying they now have added burden of insecurity as bandits now invade their camps, kidnapping their children. And Russia attacks more Ukrainian cities, raising fears of additional casualties and massive destruction.
On business news tonight, World Bank projects growth in sub-Saharan Africa to drop from 4% to 3.6% in 2022.
On sports news tonight, Manchester United FC forward Bruno Fernandes available to face Liverpool at Anfield tomorrow, despite his involvement in a car crash.
From the nation's capital, amid efforts to contain food security, farmers across the country bemoan increased hardship of the occupation following current security challenges.
The controversy surrounding the Paris Club judgment debt does not seem like a debate that will fizzle out soon, as the 36 states of the Federation have warned the federal government not to tamper with funds accruing to them and the 774 local government councils. This is coming in response to the judgment debt in which the government is supposed to refund the $418 million. In documents seen by Channels Television's judiciary correspondent Shola Sheyele, the state said they are not parties to any suit on the London Paris Club refund and as such are not liable to any person or entity in any judgment debt being relied on by the federal government. Speaking through the body of Attorneys General of the Federation, the states warned further that should the federal government proceed to make any such deductions, it would be acting illegally and in contempt of their appeal challenging the judgment. The document noted that the states have also filed a motion on notice for an order of injunction pending appeal. The battle to rid the northeast of terrorists is yielding results as troops of the multinational joint task force, the MNJTF, have killed 10 Boko Haram and Islamic State of West Africa province commanders and over 100 terrorists during a land and air clearance operation along the fringes of the Lake Chad Basin. Regrettably, 3 soldiers and 1 member of the civilian JTF were killed during the operations. A spokesperson of the MNJTF, Colonel Mohammed Dule, said in a statement that some of the commanders killed include Abubakar Dan Buduma, Abubakar Shua, Abu Ali and Abu Jubrila, among others. The operation, codenamed Operation Lake Sanity, is a joint and combined operation involving the MNJTF troops from Nigeria, Niger, Cameroon, and other security agencies and the civilian JTF. Some of the areas cleared by the troops include Zanari Arinawoje, which served as major fabrication workshop for the terrorists, among others. Now, during the operations, several sophisticated weapons of different caliber were either destroyed or captured, while a significant number of civilians, mostly women and children held captive by the terrorists, were rescued. Well, living as an internally displaced person is enough misery to experience, but it is even worse so when this misery is combined with the agony of losing one's child to kidnappers on a regular basis. That's the current plight of many internally displaced persons in Abuja. Officials of the 3 informal internally displaced persons camps in Abuja say apart from the lack of basic infrastructure, they now grapple daily with criminals who invade the camps to rob, kill, and even kidnap their children. Mr. Umagola, who is the public relations officer in one of the camps, told Channels Television that no fewer than 9 children have been abducted from the 3 camps in the last 6 months.
Displaced from their ancestral land by insurgents in 2012, this informal camp in Durumi shelters about 2,700 internally displaced persons from the northeast, including women and children. It is one of the 3 camps in Abuja where an estimated 5,000 internally displaced persons from the northeast are seeking refuge in these makeshift tents. 10 years after they fled their homes because of insecurity, officials say they feel abandoned by the government.
If you step out of this reception ground, you see the type of accommodation. It has no windows. It's cement bags knitted together and so on. The commission set up over 30 years ago called the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and IDPs, as if it doesn't exist. Feeding. 99.95% of what we eat comes from individuals and NGO.
Dozens of makeshift tents serve as shelter for the estimated 5,000 IDPs across the 3 camps in Abuja under very poor conditions. The faces here tell the story of a people in dire need of help. However, neither the lack of basic infrastructure nor food is the priority for most parents in these camps. Insecurity, including the kidnapping of the children, is now a major source of concern.
Even here in this camp, we experience security challenges. I think we've been robbed twice here. Like Kuchugoro camp, they've been robbed twice too. Even killing involved. 3 days ago, they kidnapped they carry away one of our child in Kuchugoro near Karmajiji. I think we lost about 9 children now. Some people just come to camp like the way they came for intervention like this. We lost 2 kids. Tomorrow, we don't know where they are. 3 days ago now, we lost one in Karmajiji. They adopted and go around 6 p.m. in the evening. So even Abuja here, we are not safe. Our children here, we are not safe.
There are about 700 children in the 3 IDP camps in Abuja who, apart from being cut off from education and other necessities of life, are now becoming endangered species owing to the activities of kidnappers.
From security to politics, in Benue State, there appears to be a heating up as aspirants on the platform of the People's Democratic Party jostle to pick the party's ticket ahead of 2023. But there seems to be a twist with the Governor Samuel Otom and some governorship aspirants endorsing the Speaker of the Benue State House of Assembly, Mr. Titus Uba, as the consensus aspirant from the Tiv-speaking area to contest against his deputy, Mr. Benson Abonu, who is the sole aspirant from Idoma and Igede-speaking councils area of the state. This current situation is already raising the stake for the party's governorship ticket.
It's a crucial meeting that will shape the political outlook of Benue State in 2023, which is why leaders and members of the G14 group from the 14 local government areas of the Tiv ethnic nationality gather at the government house to present a sole PDP governorship aspirant from the area to the governor. The move became necessary following the adoption of the state deputy governor by the Idoma and Igede-speaking area of Benue South Senatorial District, comprising 9 local government areas, as the area has never produced a governor since 1976, when Benue State was created. Without much formality, Governor Samuel Otom and leaders from the Tiv area begin the process as the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Mr. Titus Uba, is presented as the party's consensus candidate from the Tiv area.
The aspirants from Vandeke local government presented to their immediate kins the aspirants from Konshisha, and they handed over to me Honorable Titus Uba.
Mr. Uba appreciates the people for their trust, as Governor Otom is optimistic that a consensus will be reached between his deputy and the Speaker.
Everyone out there
in those other small parties put together believed that this was not going to be possible to produce a unanimous decision of bringing out a single candidate in the deep speaking area. But this has been done because you're all involved. I appreciate you.
If we in Zone A can come together and agree on a consensus to produce one person out of 34 aspirants, it is not impossible to produce one person out of 2 aspirants.
However, the Deputy Governor's Campaign Organization would disagree with the adoption, caution against moves to divide the state along ethnic lines.
They are deceiving the people. Abone is a credible candidate out of most of these candidates, so there's no need of bringing the issue of tribal sentiment into all these kind of things. Let this not appear as if it is Doma and Tiv affair. It should appear as people of Benue State come into election come 2023.
While Governor Samuel Thomas scheduled another meeting of the PDP stakeholders across the state to see how a consensus candidate can emerge from the 2 divides, the Abono Campaign Organization insists that he has what it takes to win the primary election.
Move to Anambra State, where the police authorities have debunked news making rounds that the governor, Professor Saludo, escaped assassination in his hometown in Iswafia. Spokesman for the Anambra State Police Command, DSP Tochukwu Ikenga, in a statement denied the reports and asked the public to disregard it as the information is totally false and misleading. He insists that the command does not have any record of such incident, and as such, it should be disregarded. The head of Professor Saludo's media office, Mr. Joe Anatone, also knows that the governor's life was never in danger, neither did he escape any assassination attempt, as claimed in many trending reports. And here in Lagos, the state government today announced the closure of all Chrysland schools in the state indefinitely, as well as a controversy generated over an immoral act engaged in by students during a trip to Dubai. In a statement today, the state government says all allegations of the matter are being investigated by relevant ministries, departments and agencies, including Ministry of Education. In view of the allegations, the state government says it is committed to ensuring that adequate medical and psychosocial support is provided for the affected students. The government is also assuring members of the public of the state government's commitment to safety and child protection, especially in ensuring that all child-centered institutions within the state formulate and implement policies and systems which are compliant with the Executive Order Safeguarding and Child Protection Program. In addition, the state government has warned that anyone caught sharing the video or related videos involving minors risks a 14-year jail term. Meanwhile, the Lagos State Police Command has commenced investigation into the matter with the view to establishing the true incident in the video, the geographical location of the incident, and the alleged threat to the life of a student of the school, among others. Nigerians, as a matter of urgency, have been admonished to work in genuine love towards one another to accentuate the essence of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. This is was severally highlighted during the Easter service of the Household of God Church held in Lagos. The church and the presiding pastor, Reverend Chris Okotie, while joining the rest of the world in Easter celebrations, turned out in their numbers to mark this year's event.
It's good to be back to worship services without any form of inhibitions, which kind of makes this year's Easter celebration an anticipated and celebrated one. As always, Household gets off early and in good number for that one service that bears a lot on the power of the Christian faith. The songs depict and describes the moment, interprets the lessons and convictions of that one event, the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
And so all of the ruling, all of the things that God has rolled out of your life, rolled out this year, rolled out this month, rolled out this week, nobody's going to roll them back into your life.
In prayers, declarations, assurances, and in his message laced intermittently with singing, Reverend Okotie draws lessons from Jesus' friendship with Lazarus, even unto death, and the Good Samaritan to attempt explaining his love. But did you know before now that resurrection isn't just about rising from the dead? It is more, plus that. Reverend Okotie opens a dimension.
Now, it's important to know the difference between resurrection and animation. Resurrection is a state where a man in a particular spiritual condition translates into another spiritual condition first before the bodily animation. Resurrection is a translation from one spiritual condition to another, followed by a bodily animation. So the difference is not that Jesus died and God went and woke him and said, "Hey, get up." No. He died spiritually, and it will require the power of Almighty God in all of its ramifications to raise him spiritually first before he can be animated.
Indeed, there is a present-day reality to the power of resurrection.
The celebration of Easter, or the Easter itself, is a corroboration of that title, which belongs exclusively to our God. And I believe that is the same thing for Nigeria, that we're going to experience a resurrection, some kind of a national phoenixism, that the old order will die and the new order will rise.
For Household of God Church, it's a new dawn for Nigeria.
In part two, after the break, ahead of the 2023 National Census, Lagos State chapter of the National Population Commission raises alarm over census migration, says act should be criminalized. That's in a moment. Do join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. State governors gear up for a likely showdown with the federal government over the Paris Fund judgment debt, warns against deduction of $418 million from states. Giant stride for the military in the fight against terror as troops kill 10 Boko Haram ISWAP commanders and other terrorists in the Lake Chad region. Abuja IDPs cry out for help, saying they now have added burden of insecurity as bandits now invade their camps, kidnapping their children. And Russia attacks more Ukrainian cities, raises fears of additional casualties and massive destruction. One of the major demographic parameters is determining the number of persons within a country. Now, in a country like Nigeria, where the last population census was conducted 17 years ago, how close is the country to its estimated number? To provide a scientific answer to this question, the National Population Commission has scheduled a census for next year. This announcement is eliciting diverse reactions from different parts of the country. Our correspondent, Dari Idowu, explains.
Population census, the painstaking process of collating, compiling, and publishing demographic, economic, and social data of a country at a given time. In Nigeria, the last head count was conducted in 2006. Come next year, the country will conduct its first census in 17 years and attempt to accurately capture its population size, currently estimated at more than 200 million. This announcement is generating debates among Nigerians. For some, it's timely. For others, it's ill-timed.
Our expectation is that this time around they are going to deploy sophisticated technology that will enable actual figures, that is really existing in the country to be documented.
What's the percentage of Nigerians that even have their national identity cards? How do we know who is a Nigerian and who is from another neighboring African country, since our borders are so porous that anyone can come through?
It coincides with the election year, and we all know what the country used to be in an election year. There is tension, there is whatever you call, there is political thuggery and all sorts of things. And in fact, we have to consider the insecurity in the country, especially in parts of the country.
Enumerators who are to carry out the census will be sourced from communities where those census will be conducted, because understanding of the context will improve the information, will produce quality information in those communities.
If there are instruments in place, it's a good move, and it will help us as a country to actually determine the number of people that we have. It won't be like we are just forecasting.
Some of these reservations seem to have been built into the plan. Officials of the National Population Commission say the agency will deploy appropriate use of technology for the exercise.
What the Commission has decided on now is that it's a digital census, and biometrics is also digital, but the level of biometric we will take, the Commission is yet to decide on. I'll come back here and let you know.
The ready-made arguments for a census are, but not limited to the formulation of economic policies, determination of population density, and distribution of resources. These and more are what Nigerians are expecting when the exercise is eventually conducted. Dari Idu, Channels Television News.
Joining us now to give details of the implementation of the decision of the National Council of States on the conduct of the National Population Commission and the upcoming census is Dr. Eyitayo Oyetunji. He's the Federal Commissioner in the National Population Commission. He joins us from our studio in Abuja. Dr. Oyetunji, thank you for joining us on the News at 10.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening and a happy Easter to you. What would be the schedule of the NPC for this upcoming census?
Thank you very much. As you noted, the Council of State has given a go-ahead for the Commission to continue with the process towards conducting the next census in 2023. The arrangement we have presently is that by June this year, we'll carry what we call the trial census or the pilot census to test all our instruments, to test logistic preparations, and to test all arrangements so that by next year, when the actual enumeration will be conducted, we'll have satisfied that every preparation will be in gear. The actual enumeration, we are targeting April next year, by which time all elections will have been concluded. The idea is to completely isolate and insulate the census from any political coloring. The purpose for the census is to collect information that will help in social and economic planning and development. We do not want the census to become part of the political process in whatsoever way. It is that has led to the decision to do the census enumeration after the conclusion of all the electoral processes.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because another concern that was raised was the fact that this census will be holding in an election year. But let's talk about the method of head counts that will be adopted. I understand, the NPC is considering digital method, but not biometrics.
Yes, you're quite correct. We do not intend to conduct a biometric census. What we mean by digital really is that we're not using papers. We're not writing analog. We're not collecting information by someone writing the information on a paper. Rather, we're using handheld devices that will collect information in an e-format. That is very important for accuracy and for processing. When you collect information in an analog form, that means somebody writes down whatever is told, and you have to later transcribe that into a digital format. This time around, from the point of enumeration, the information will be collected digitally. When you talk about biometric, you're saying collecting additional attributes of the person that you're interviewing, perhaps his face, his thumbprints, and all of that. We do not intend to do that for the next census. As you are well aware, NYSC is collecting biometric information about people that are captured under the ID management system, and it is not necessary for us to do that at this level. So the next census is not going to be a biometric census. However, the process is going to be digital. What that means is that the information will be collected using e-formats and digital instruments to ensure accuracy and early processing. And in any case, we have already been using this digital technology even before now. We've used it to carry out the enumeration area demarcation, which we have done in 742 out of the 744 local governments. We've done it successfully, and we have seen that using that technology enhances a lot of accuracy and removes a lot of error from the process. And we're convinced that if we're able, we're going to use that for the actual census, and that this time around we are going to get a very accurate and reliable census, devoid of all forms of controversy.
Well, looking forward to the mock census in the trial census in June, which will help us, prepare for the one next year. Thank you again, Dr. Iyitayo Oyetunji, for joining us on the News at 10.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Still ahead on the News at 10, River State Governor Nyesom Wike visits Kano State for consultation ahead of the 2023 presidential election. Do join us again. Welcome back to the News at 10. We'll stay on a bit longer in Abuja as Terry Kumi joins us now with more on the News at 10. Hi, Terry.
Hello, Amarachi. Nice to see you again. The governor of Nasarawa State, Abdullahi Sule, has challenged other state governments to look inwards and tap into their natural resources for improved revenue generation. Speaking earlier today on our Business Morning program, the governor explained that this would be very vital for the economy, as no state in the country can survive solely on federal allocation.
And the local government areas and the council must brace off to generating internal revenue. Without us actually working on our revenue base, the federal allocation dependence is not going to solve all our problems. This is the reality. A lot of states have great potentials, and those potentials are not being explored. And I will give you a very good example is with Nasarawa State. You can imagine, all our proximity to the federal capital and the rest. Nasarawa State was one of the least revenue generating states. When we came in the year 2019, actually, the state generated a revenue of not more than a little over 7 billion for the whole year. That's just an average of a little over 500 million monthly. We have over 35 different kinds of minerals, but not all of them are in commercial quantity.
The River State Governor Nyesom Wike today promised that Kano State will enter into a new era of industrial revolution if elected president of Nigeria. To achieve this, Governor Wike urged the delegates to the presidential primary of the People's Democratic Party to elect him as the candidate. Governor Wike, who was addressing the delegates at the PDP Secretariat in Kano, maintained his criticisms against the anti-corruption fight of the federal government.
Without security, who will do business? Will anybody do business? It's not possible. So for us, to provide security is the major thing. When security is in order, everything will flow. Because nobody goes to where there's so much insecurity. When you go and invest your money, you will not invest your money. And that is why too, education is a problem. That is why too, people cannot go to farm. Isaac, you are farmers. Are you not farmers? Are you not farmers? Can we go to farm again? Can we go to farm again? Why? Because of insecurity.
Well, food prices continue to gain steady increase, and the escalating security situation is not helping matters. Besides insecurity, lack of access to finance and insufficient farm inputs serve as some of the reasons for the soaring prices. Our next report takes a look at how farmers are calling for the adoption of modern technology to boost food production, which will end up crashing the prices and enhancing food security in the country.
This is a typical day in the life of a Nigerian farmer. From the north to some other states across the country, from lack of finance to inadequate supplies of farm inputs such as fertilizer, herbicides and lack of infrastructure, the challenges remain the same. And with the recent upsurge in insecurity, the prices of food continue to inch upwards. A total of 291 billion naira is appropriated for the agriculture sector out of the 16.9 trillion naira 2022 budget. Despite Nigeria's commitment to the 2003 Maputo and 2014 Malabo declarations to allocate at least 10% of the national annual budget to agriculture, the budgetary allocation is yet to reach 2% of the total budget.
In collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Central Bank, farmers will be able to access loans and also seeds through the National Seed Council, improved seeds. Because once you have improved seeds, you will be assured of getting the enhanced production. Your yield will be very high, and definitely you will have value for what you are doing.
The federal government only recently announced that it has commenced the implementation of the National Fertilizer Quality Control Act 2019. It notes that with its over 70 blending plants operating, Nigeria is on its way to becoming Africa's fertilizer powerhouse. Some farmers, however, express worries over the bottlenecks associated with accessing loans to boost their productivity. This is just as the access to herbicides and pesticides is becoming difficult because of the increase in the prices of farm inputs. But some others are accepting innovative biotechnology.
The future of agriculture is good, it's wonderful. But because of this government thing that they couldn't come out to help, that is the reason, one of the reasons. And number two, farmers could not go to the banks for loans. When you go to the banks, they will say there's no money for agriculture. And so it is bleak.
If government allowed to help us, he will find us a little money so that we find seed things, seed crops, then we manage and look forward.
The National Biotechnology Development Agency is at the forefront of advocating for the acceptance of the technology because of its inherent benefits.
In one of the states in the country, which is Kano, it had received a tremendous support from the people that is engaged in agricultural activity, that is the farmers. Those farmers have overwhelmed the companies, 3 companies that were saddled with the responsibility of producing the grains that will be used in planting seed.
No doubt the nation has seen some level of food insecurity, but with concerted efforts, it may become a thing of the past in no distant time.
To some other stories now, entertainer and politician Olubankole Wellington, popularly known as Banky W, is of the opinion that the National Youth Service Corps scheme should no longer be made compulsory. According to him, the scheme is not living up to the reason for its creation. He advises that the resources for the NYSC be channeled to something more beneficial for the youths. He stated this during a chat with me.
At least half of the young people who do NYSC might not need it. At least not in the iteration that it's in now. So you have people that go for NYSC and they just sign a paper somewhere and give somebody money so that they say that they have it. And then they go off and do whatever. So is that program really achieving what it was meant to? Or can we think about it differently? Can we consider amending the Constitution to say, okay, this thing is no longer compulsory, it's optional. But when you do that, first of all, the people who don't need it won't do it. So you already save resources. You can now put the remaining resources to increasing the amount of money that you're able to pay young people on a monthly basis. You can use the sunk cost, the buildings, the campsites to say, hey, can we give them digital skills training? Can we give them vocational training? Can we give them something that gives them a skill set that is useful in the century that we are in, and not just saying we have always done it like this. Come, stand, march, smile, take a selfie, and yeah, you have been there, you have it now, all of a sudden you have served your country. It's not true, it's not real. Innovation happens in the private sector, but reform happens in government. So it's time for the guys who are at the table of innovation to put people at the table of reform, put people at the table of policy making, and say, okay, if we don't do this, then one day you will be innovating and innovating, and then a policy will come that will kill your innovation right there in its tracks. Not voting is essentially a vote for things to remain the same. So if you are happy with the way things are, then fine, sit out the process. But if you are not, then at least get your voter's card and use your voice for whoever you actually believe is the right choice. I think that elections are won by the people that show up.
For the full interview, watch Political Paradigm on Tuesday at noon. When the news at 10 returns, we'll bring you business news. So stay with us.
Welcome back. And here's Anne Mamadou with business stories, leading with the World Bank projections for sub-Saharan Africa.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Amarachi. Hello and welcome to Business News. Let's begin with the World Bank saying that economic growth in sub-Saharan Africa is projected to drop from 4% to 3.6% in this year, and estimated at 3.9% and 4.2% in 2023 and 2024. The World Bank attributes the projected decline to lingering effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, elevated inflation, high public debts, continued supply disruptions, and the war in Ukraine. South Africa's growth is expected to decline also by 2.8% this year due to persistent structural constraints. Meanwhile, Angola and Nigeria are projected to continue with the momentum of 2021, up by 2.7% and 0.2%, thanks partly to elevated oil prices and good performance of the non-oil sector. And the Nigerian Economic Summit Group has warned of severe implications of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine on Nigeria's economy, which is affecting many countries around the world. In this report titled Implications of Russia-Ukraine War, Risks and Opportunities for Nigeria, the NYSC mentioned that Russia's invasion of Ukraine has caused disruptions to global supply chain, and it could reduce Nigeria's trade volume with both countries. Meanwhile, the think tank is asking the federal government to take advantage of the benefits of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement and ensure effective border control to soften the impact of the fallout of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Let's talk about oil prices. They rose on Monday in choppy trade, with Brent crude topping at $113 a barrel. Outages in Libya deepened concerns over tight global supply, and the Ukraine crisis dragged on, offsetting concerns over slowing Chinese demand. Libya's National Oil Corps had warned of its facility closure as it declared force majeure at Old Sahara oil field and other sites, adding that the supply pressures from sanctions on Russia. The global benchmark Brent crude rose 1.2% to $113.07 a barrel. And now to the equities market, where most major exchanges are closed for the Easter holidays, with the exception of Asia and the United States. Meanwhile, in the U.S., S&P 500 fell slightly to start a big week of earnings, while traders kept an eye on rates. Let's find out the closing numbers for today. And that's business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Amarachi.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks, Anne. Ukrainian officials say Russian forces have been bombarding several cities across the country over the last couple of days. At least 7 people have been reportedly killed in the city of Lviv and 11 others injured. Simon Pusey has more and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Russian forces have bombarded several Ukrainian cities, including Lviv in the west, which had largely escaped unscathed until now. Here, thick black smoke billowing above a target in the city. Officials say 7 people have been killed after 4 rockets hit military facilities and a car tyre service point in the city. And here, drone footage shows smoke rising from above a steelworks in the city of Mariupol. It's after Ukrainian troops in the city ignored a Russian deadline to surrender on Sunday. Russia's military said artillery units attacked 315 Ukrainian targets in just one night. More than 40 people have been arrested during 4 days of violent clashes in cities in Sweden between police and people angry at plans by a far-right group to burn copies of the Quran. 3 people were injured in Norrköping when officers fired warning shots at rioters. The violence was sparked by a series of rallies organised by the Danish-Swedish politician Rasmus Paludan. He says he has burned a copy of Islam's holy book and wants to do so again. Muslims consider the Quran the sacred word of God and view any intentional damage or show of disrespect towards it as deeply offensive. China has reported the deaths of 3 people from COVID in Shanghai for the first time since the financial hub entered lockdown in late March. A release from the City Health Commission said the victims were aged between 89 and 91 and were unvaccinated. Shanghai officials said only 38% of residents over 60 are fully vaccinated. The city is now due to enter another round of mass testing, which means a strict lockdown will continue into a 4th week for most residents. The South African military says it is deploying more than 10,000 troops to help with relief and rescue operations following the devastating floods that swept through parts of KwaZulu-Natal province last week. More than 440 people have died, and the search is continuing for 63 people who are still missing. Some of them were swept away by swollen rivers and mudslides. The government has declared KwaZulu-Natal a disaster area. Officials described the floods as some of the worst to ever hit the province. The state premier said that nearly 4,000 homes have been destroyed and more than 8,000 damaged, most in the coastal city of Durban and its surrounding areas. 61 migrants have been rescued by the Spanish Coast Guard in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Spain's Canary Islands. The migrants, 31 women, 21 men and 9 minors, were transferred to a port in Gran Canaria, where they were helped by emergency services. The latest official figures published show 6,359 migrants have arrived in the Canary Islands up to April the 15th. That's compared to 3,980 at the same time last year. The Canary Islands have become the main destination in Spain for migrants trying to reach Europe. A specialised marine diving team has begun work around a commercial cargo ship that sank off the southern coast of Tunisia to check for any oil leakage. The ship was heading from Equatorial Guinea to Malta when it sank 7 miles off the coast. Officials say it was carrying between 750 tonnes and 1,000 tonnes of fuel. They said barriers would be set up to limit the spread of the fuel and cordon off the ship. UK Home Secretary Priti Patel has hit back at critics of the government's plan to send asylum seekers to Rwanda, saying they have failed to offer solutions. She unveiled the policy last week alongside the Rwandan Foreign Minister as a proposed answer to people smuggling.
Why there are such serious ethical questions about sending asylum seekers overseas.
It's after the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, became the latest figure to criticise the plan, accusing the government of subcontracting our responsibilities and saying it cannot stand the judgment of God. And thousands of Jewish worshippers have prayed at the Western Wall at a special mass, priestly blessing, which takes place during the holiday of Passover under heavy Israeli security following recent violence in Jerusalem. Hundreds of police deployed across Jerusalem and its old city after violence at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. The ceremony is held twice a year during the Jewish holidays of Passover and Sukkot. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to Channel Studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Nigeria's Flying Eagles head coach Ladan Boso has invited 40 players to the Abuja camp ahead of the WAFU B Under-20 Championship taking place in Niamey, that's the capital city of Niger Republic, next month. Now, the list has 4 goalkeepers, 12 midfielders, 17 defenders and 7 forwards. Well, the 7-time African champions will play in Group B alongside Ghana and Burkina Faso, with the tournament scheduled for May the 7th to the 20th. Manchester United interim manager Ralph Rangnick says midfielder Bruno Fernandes will be available for selection against Liverpool FC in the English Premier League tomorrow. Rangnick said Fernandes is unhurt after being involved in a car crash on his way to training. Meanwhile, Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp describes the game with Man United as a clash between 2 of the biggest clubs in the world. Klopp believes his team are in for a stern test despite the opposition's struggles this season. World number 4 Rafa Nadal returns to training following a 4-week rib injury layoff with just over a month to go before the French Open in Roland Garros. Nadal picked up the injury and has lost to American Taylor Fritz in the Indian Wells final. And 6th seed Fabio Fognini saw off fellow Italian Marco Cecchinato to reach the second round of the Serbia Open in Belgrade. After losing the opening set in a tight tiebreaker, Fognini found his form and lost 4 more games en route to a 6-7, 6-2, 6-2 victory. And that's sports news. It's back to Marachi for the wrap.
Thanks, Hayatunde. And the main news again. The 36 state governors are not backing down as they geared up today for a likely showdown with the federal government over the Paris Club judgment debt. They warned that they would not accept the deduction of $480 million from states. That's it on the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Uvani. Good night.